Hi everyone, I'm Viv from Academic Skills. Welcome to our video on understanding your essay question for History 1214. So when you first receive your essay questions, it's important to take a while to break down the question, because a lot of the common problems to do with essays and when essays don't do very well is when they only answer part of the question. So what we're going to do is look at how to answer the whole question. And I'm going to take you through the steps of breaking down the question, doing the research, developing your ideas, and taking a position that helps to answer that question entirely. So the very first step is to check your requirements. Now, Tanya wants you to select one of the case studies considered in the course and use it to develop an argument in response to one of the questions on the list. So that case that you're using, have a think about whether that case suits the type of question that you're interested in. When you choose your question, take a look at what is appealing to you about it, what sparks your interest, and is it going to sustain your interest? And if it doesn't end up sustaining your interest, have a think about what a backup question might be from the list as well. So when you're looking at the questions, consider your directional words. What are the directional words that it provides? So for instance, many of these questions from the list includes things like, how did this particular theme play a role? Or identify and explain how this thing happened. For instance, how did these particular strategies work? What were the most important factors and why? All of those kinds of words are directional words. They're telling you that you need to analyze how this theme played a role, or what were the factors? Which factors were most important? So you've got to answer those questions very clearly. Now, no matter what directional words you're being asked, you have to have an argument. So it has to be really clear what your answer to those questions are. So those directional words can help you to find what kind of answer will you need to have. Then the next step is to identify, well, what's the problem? Why is this an interesting question, or why is this an important question? And the way to do that is to have a think about, well, what's the issue? What's the debate that's being talked about here? So that will help you to give some arguments and counter arguments about that particular question. So let's have a look. So in this particular essay question, this is a made-up question: how did ideology play a part in the maintenance and legacy of the Neo-Assyrian Empire? So what we're looking at here is, what is the issue or debate? And there's actually a few different ones that you could get from this question. So one of the issues could be whether ideology did play a strong role or not. And was there just one type of ideology or others? In what way did ideology play a part? So were there multiple ways that it played a part? And which sources are evidence of ideology or not? So what kinds of things display ideology? And that choice will help you to figure out, well, what kind of answer you're going to give. So when you're researching, identify whether your sources are looking at those different types of issues, and try and identify, well, which are the common issues that keep coming up. So when you're doing your research, keep going back to, what's the problem? Why is this question something where there might be multiple answers or multiple perspectives? And out of all that research, which perspectives do you think are the most reliable? So then, once you've done a little bit of reading and figured out what kinds of issues there are, you'll have to also identify what kind of information you'll need. So what will you need to actually find out from the research? So with this particular question, you'd need to find out, well, what kinds of ideologies were present, and which ones were most prominent. So which ones were really, really prominent and popular and well documented, but also maybe not. And the other part of the question is, how was it maintained? So how did this ideology or ideologies play a part in the maintenance and legacy of the Neo-Assyrian Empire? So here's what I mean by, this is kind of a two-parter question. You've got the first question about, how did ideology play a part in maintaining the empire, and what was its legacy? So you'll have to have a think about these as you read through the research. Go back to your reading strategies that we talked about earlier in the semester, and always go back with a purpose. So you might need to reread documents and go through, well, what are the multiple ways that they show these issues and show these different perspectives? And ask yourself questions as you go. So make sure that you break it down into annotations about what does the author say, cue ideas or your ideas, where you ask yourself, Does this answer my question? Which ideologies does it talk about? Did they play a prominent role or not? Are they contested? And have that summary where you break it down for yourself. Why is this particular source relevant to my question? Then as you read through, you'll get a sense of where the different answers to the question lie and what different key problems arise or what different key ideas there are. So you might like to create a brainstorm or a mind map where you identify what are all the different factors. So what are the different ideologies? What were the different ways that they played a role in maintaining or not the empire? And what about the legacy? Was the legacy maintained or not? What was the influence of those ideologies on the legacy? So once you've done that stage, then it's time to come up with your thesis statement. And we're going to talk about that in our next video. But the last thing that I wanted to emphasize is that you can come and see us about brainstorming your question and about breaking down your question. So if you were looking at your question and you want to figure out how's best to approach this, you can book an appointment with the writing coach and have a talk about that. You can also see peer writers for that kind of breaking down the question and planning out your essay as well. The difference is peer writers can see you for about 10-15 minutes, writing coaches can see you for around 45 minutes over Zoom. Okay, thanks.